it seems that we will be having basically the full list of cards for Journey Together coming out with the release of the new set in Japan. I think it's like Battle Partners, which will make up the entirety of our Journey Together set, alongside some missing cards from like the regional Journey Together battle decks that they had. Those cards aren't that great, and they kind of make up for a lot of filler in this set and in Prismatic Evolution. So if you're wondering like where some of these cards like Clodsire or Lugia come from, they come from like the collection of every generation game, like an EX battle deck. Anyways, I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. Butterfree is kind of bad. It's funny, but it's kind of bad. Parasect unplayable. Lilligant is a card I wanted to see in the previous set because this is one of those EX battle decks I was talking about. It allows you to buff the damage of your grass and fire types by plus 20 more while sitting on the bench, which can be good in a few ways. More most recently, if you're thinking about Prismatic Evolutions, this buffs up the damage on your Bidoof, so it allows you to do 20 more damage, which can be, decently strong. Once you start making your Bidoof swing for like 30 on top of like poison chip damage or poison mochi, then that damage starts to stack up a lot. If you wanted to, you could also play this as a Venomoth. Venomoth, I believe, confuses the opponent when you hit them, while also applying the item block, which can be really good. Or, if you want to get even cheekier, you can play this as Diplin. Now that we have cards like Black Belt Master, which lets you do 40 extra damage to Pokemon EXs, you can start really ramping up that Diplin damage by quite a bit. And this Pokemon's not bad because it's a grass type, which means it improves the consistency of your bug catching set, while also buffing your Diplin's damage. I don't think it's enough to make that deck great, but it's at least notable because it helps out some of the item locking decks and it helps out Diplin. And one prize archetypes can end up potentially being really strong if we continue moving into a sort of metagame. Especially Diplin, I feel like, because as people are going to be moving to more like Arvin, TM Evo to play around Badu, having Diplin attack twice and knock out two things on your opponent's board state can be really, really tricky. Rakdos is unfortunately not that great. The Amogus is one of those bulky X's that we're going to see, so not that great. The Isalgor doesn't seem that bad. It can confuse the poison the active and then is a hit and run. We've had a lot of hit and runs in the game recently, and we have a lot of the good things to bump out into. So we have like the what's it called? We have like the Pecharet, for example. We also have Klefki. What else? There's a couple other guys too that you can hit and run as well. I don't see hit and run manifesting super well, just because it seems a little tricky to constantly set up. And 70 damage plus like confusion and poison doesn't seem that great, especially as we're going to be losing Radiant Sneasler, who is one of those ways to bump up the damage. You could consider using the Stadium, that bumps up the poison damage, so like this will hit for like 100, and then also confuse them. But it still seems very tricky. Yeah, I think it's cute, but I don't think it's going to make a meta deck. Durant bad, Verzi bad. Miascarada is it's rush in, so you can switch this into the active once per turn. And then we have a tool card that gives us free retreat. It has one retreat anyway, so you can just rescue board. I don't know, this doesn't seem that great because we're losing double turbo energy first and foremost. So even having the tech energy attack doesn't seem that great. I can't kill Charizard, but like Charizard's not the most relevant thing. And I'm not sure if it's going to remain super relevant post-rotation. Not to say that it won't be good, but I don't think it's going to, like, swarm the meta. So, Miascarada seems very bad. Magmortar, we have another guy in the set that we're going to get to in a second who applies burn as a status. And this is, like, kind of cute. So you go, like, Volcanion EX, which I guess I'll just talk about that guy real quick. And he's down here. If he's in the active spot, you just burn your opponent, and then he has a kind of mediocre attack. But you could go like TM Evolution onto onto two Magmars and bump that damage up, so then your burn is doing like 80 damage, which I think is okay. Maybe it's probably weaker than like Petra Brute Bonnet. It seems like less setup. And, all these guys kind of suck. You're setting up stage ones, you're using your attack on Team Evo. Doesn't seem that great. And Bird is always kind of like a finicky status, just because your opponent can coin flip out of it. So anything that would require your opponent to like take the extra damage would suck, essentially. So I am not super high on it. Blaziken has like an okay ability. He just allows you to ramp up basic energy if you're discarding one of your Pokemon once per turn, and you can get multiple of these out. I'm not sure if there's a deck that really like wants a Dynamotor-esque effect in the game, just in general, but it could be neat. Yeah, I really just can't think of anything that really wants to run this. It's okay, but it's kind of slow when we have more dangerous ways of energy ramping. I feel like all the decks that energy ramp already have attackers that scale off of it. Like, we'll see later we have a Belly Bolt and a Voltorb that can do that. And then we still have, like, Chi and Pal, Excalibur. So it just doesn't seem that necessary. Unless you're trying to charge up maybe a Terra Pokemon attack, so you can maybe do, like, Blaziken Pikachu. But that also sounds, like, extremely awkward to make work. Drunkle bad. This set we're gonna have partner Pokemon, so all the end stuff is supposed to play off the Zoroark, which I guess I'll just talk about right now. So the Zoroark allows you to discard energy from or discard a card from your hand and draw two. So it's just Refinement or Trade or Make Do, whatever you're most familiar with. And then Night Joker allows you to use UV Max's attack, which copies the Ends Pokemon on the bench. So all the Ends Pokemon kind of want to bounce off the guy right there, the Zoroark. And so this one can allow you to do 90 to the active and 90 to the bench. I think the effect is strong. Like, we've seen, like, if you saw my Gadget Pyro video recently, like, Delphox doing this attack is actually pretty relevant. And then we've also had times in the past with, like, Urshifu doing this, or Greninja doing this. But there's a few downsides. One, this is a stage one that needs to be around. So if your opponent can only, like, let's say you're the Zoroark player, the only way that you can win is by copying this attack over and over again, that's really going to suck if they bosses up and kill it. So all your setup is just suddenly gone. Second of all, it has, I guess it's not that relevant. I was going to say it has 3 energy to retreat, which is sort of relevant, but there's ways of bypassing that. It just ultimately doesn't seem that great. Backdraft is like an okay attack, because it can maybe allow you to counter Golden Joe, but I'm not sure if it actually scales enough damage to kill it. And then, like, the only other deck you're hitting is, like, Ceruledge, so, like, it seems almost good enough because there's 2, like, relevant two relevant pieces of text on it, but it being a stage one's really gotta hold, like, its momentum, its consistency. Volcarona bad, Reshiram bad. Volcanion, kind of the same opinion of all the bird stuff. It's like kind of bad. If your opponent has to have like multiple statuses on them, I suppose maybe this could be okay because you go brute bond it and then also do this. But I can't think of a single card in the game that scales based off the amount of statuses on your opponent. Yeah, so it just doesn't seem that great. Articuno, to attach them to this Pokemon, this seems bad. Artillery, bad. Ludicolo gives you plus 40 HP on everything, which can be a decently strong ability, but we've had a few of these recently. Like, we had the toughness boost on Bulbasaur, we have the Cricketune, I believe, that boosted the HP of grass-type Pokemon, but we haven't really had a good grass-type deck recently that would want to utilize that. But, I mean, there's 2 things to know. One, we're losing Arena, so setting this up sucks. You can't go, like, Arena, Ludicolo, or Candy and set this up. And 2, plus 40 HP is, like, not worth the effort to set all of this up. I can't think of a single deck that, like, benefits from this. And so many decks have, like, random damage modifiers in them now that it's really hard. Especially, like, the big EXs. So you can kind of get away with sometimes, like, hitting 280 and that being a good number because that kills V-Stars. And with cards like Regidraga V-Star, Lugia V-Star being some of the best cards in the game, sure, you can get away with that. But, like, killing a Pokemon with, like, 320, 330 HP is very difficult. And making that, like, 370 or, like, 360 doesn't really change that breakpoint much if your plan is already to 2-hit KO them. So I just, like, don't see this being extremely good. It can be cute, it can be kind of funny, but it's just not that great in general. Pelipper's bad. The Wailord is kind of funny. Its HP is really huge, so you put a Luxurious Cape on it, and it has 340 HP, and is a 2-prizer, has more HP than, like, shit like Charizard. And then the skiller on the attack is not bad. So let's just say you backscalibur all the energy onto it. At base, you're doing 210 damage, which is okay. But it starts to get like kind of, well, is it sketchy? It's kind of tough. I guess it's like entirely depends on like what the meta around it manifests as. Can you get punished for just having this guy and not being able to set it up, or your back scholar is gonna get sniped out? I'm not quite sure. I guess we just have to see like how aggressive the decks are. I guess it also depends on like how many decks can hit 240 or even one hit knockout something. So there's like a lot of bolts and a lot of moons, and like the Iono stuff is popular. This card can be bad. I typically wouldn't give this type of card like a lot of credit, but it kind of like is almost good enough to like have some merit. I guess another thing worth noting too is with Arena Gone, if you want to like fetch out rare candies, you can do Arvin for that, and so Arvin grabs you a luxurious cape as well on top of like the rare candy or the vessel or whatever else you need. So that could maybe fit in with like all that like Baxcalibur stuff. I won't write this one off completely. I'm not entirely convinced it's gonna become like a really good deck in the game because setting up multiple evolution lines seems really tough and really unintuitive for a lot of decks in the game. But maybe there's a chance. I'll give it that much. Regice is bad. Alolan, Graveler, and Joke Golem, and all this shit. Those are definitely bad. Okay. Iono stuff. All the Iono Pokemon are lightning types. There's those Mismagius. And I suppose I just scroll down the Belly Bolt real quick because that's the important one. It's often you like attach a basic lightning from your hand to one of your Iono's Pokemon. So it's just like Rain Dance, but for Iono's stuff. And I guess the main payoff is the Iono's Voltorb, which allows you to do 20 plus 20 for each lightning in play. And the skilling on this is kind of bad. Let's just say you want to kill Drag Bolt. You need 15 energies in play, which is a lot. But, honestly, I've seen some gameplay of the deck, and it might be scripted, but there's a hint of potential. You have some decent draw power available to the package. You have Maridon who just grabs stains out. So you have like Ultra Artisan. You have an Ultra Training Core too. You have a Training Core that grabs you 2 lightning energies. It's so good. A lot of the Iono stuff just seems like it has the potential to be really good, just because a lot of the pre-existing support that we have that makes stuff like this good is already just like kind of there. And it just comes down to a matter of consistency and explosiveness, or if Badu affects all this stuff. I think it's really hard to judge from an entirely new archetype. So I think there is like a small chance this like deck could be playable. I'm not gonna put all my eggs in the basket that Iono stuff is gonna be really good, but I think it has some competitive leverage in the metagame. We have the Joltik. There is no Galvantula because Ed never has a Galvantula, I guess. Discard all Pokemon tools from the active if you do Paralock them. I think this is okay against a few things. So both the Hop archetype and the Lillie archetype are very tool dependent. So is the I guess like not tool dependent, but what's it called? What's his name? Royman. Royman loves the ancient booster energy capsules, and there's a lot of like binding mochi going around too. So having this as like a tech option to remove the tool card and steal you another turn can actually be kind of swag. I won't write this one off completely either too. I don't think the end stuff is that great, but I do think that if Zoroark, and like if there is a Zoroark deck, this can be a very good tech card that might see a few placements here and there depending like what's in the meta. Yeah, Dragon Tomorrow bad, Coco extremely bad. The Belly Bolt, it kind of I can't really talk about this card too much without talking about all the other Iono's Pokemon, so I'm just gonna keep ignoring it. We have the Kill Watchel, which allows you to discard energy from it to draw until you have 6. And this is like weird, but it's cool. I will say the neat part about this ability is when you have 2 Kill Watchel in play. So sometimes you have an issue with like these like delayed draw supporters, I guess. Like so like Reverberm has to discard energy from your hand in order to draw, and so sometimes you're gonna get bricked and then you're not gonna be able to draw out of that situation. The Kill Ultra is really good at that, but also it's kind of only good if you have two of them, that way they can't boss it up and kill like one of them. So like, let's say the counter catcher Iono and kill the Kilowattrel, and then suddenly like you're bricked out and you can't do anything. I think the Kilowattrel being able to bank energy or bank its straw for later seems really nice. It's still OPT, but it's not a hard OPT, so you can still, like I said, run multiple of these, dig pretty hard, and then you have the broken stadium I talked about earlier that allows you to reset all of it. I do think that like this is one of the best parts about the Iona deck is that like you kind of just play all the Iona cards or all five of them because Electron isn't real, and you just kind of go in and try to ramp your setup as much as possible. And you have to keep in mind too, like when they kill the Voltorb, they're only taking out like 2 or 3 energies off of it because all your other energies are probably baked on like the Belly Bolt or onto the Kilowattrel. So it's really hard for your opponent to like threat assess because if they kill the Belly Bolt, then you still have a bunch of energies in play, and there's a chance you just have another one, ramp a bunch of stuff. If you kill the Voltorb, still a bunch of energies in play, and Voltorb's a basic, so it can come out and attack. And knocking out the Kilowattrel is probably like the best thing that you can do, but you don't have to bank all your energies on it either. So, it's a really tough situation where I don't think you give your opponent a lot of good opportunities or a lot of good Pokemon to kill. And Belly Bolt also being 280 is kind of swag. So, I do think the archetype has legs and standing. I wouldn't go as far as say as it's like tier 1. I think it's like sitting right below that. So there's like an S tier deck. There's maybe like an A minus deck or a B plus. But yeah. We have the Lillie's Clefairy EX, and I wish I could say more about the Lillie's archetype, but it's kind of just like two things. The Clefairy seems okay. So, I mean, we have the Rondo attacks being rebirthed off Entei and Raikou and Suicune into this Clefairy. And Rondo's been pretty successful in the game, especially as of late, with stuff like Raikou and Entei benefiting off the Area Zero underdeaths. And so Clefairy also benefits from all of that too. And then also hitting Dragon types for weakness is like kind of nice. Obviously, Rigid Dragos rotating, so like the biggest target that was on their back is gone, but I think Dragon Bolt will still remain pretty good. And there's no telling when we're gonna get another good Dragon type, right? So I think the Clefairy being able to apply weakness to some of those guys is a really strong effect. I think the only other case where that text is relevant is maybe if like an Eevee box becomes good and you play Sylveon, and so you can go ahead and play this as like your tech card for Dragon Bolt and allows your Sylveon to knock them out in one hit. So there's that situation. I guess I could talk about this card a little bit more without even talking about the other cards, because the other cards are just like Erica's Invitation on crack. It's just, hey, you evolve into this? Cool, look at your opponent's hand and pick all the basics you find there, put them down. So if they're trying to dodge Clefairy thresholds, you can do that. But most of the time, I feel like most people are just trying to play their deck to the best that they can, and a lot of the decks will just try to aggro you. And so the Revolve I don't think is that good in the Lillie deck specifically, but it can maybe see playing control. Maybe you play this as like a 1/1 in Turo, and you're trying to like boss trap something. I don't know how you're gonna like block something in the active. Because I'm not the control player, I haven't figured that out. But I'm sure this card's text will be relevant down the line in the future, unless if we get like another type of effect like this, where it can hunt the opponent's Pokemon down and bench lock them or whatever. And then the only other one that's kind of relevant is the Comfy. It sucks because the Comfy just searches direct for a bunch of Lillie's Pokemon and then puts them into play, which seems like a really decent turn 1 attack until you realize there's basically nothing you want to grab. So you're basically only grabbing Clefairies and then maybe like an extra Comfy just to have damage out. And then you like need the Area Zero out, so it's like really rough, right? I think the Clefairy has a good enough text on it on its own to be worthwhile, on top of it being maybe a good tech card in the future. But it's not like, oh, the Lillie's archetype is really good. It's just that Lillie's Clefairy is a good card, and that's only because it's borrowing the text from Suicune, Entei, Raikou that we've seen before. Mr. Mime seems bad. Marowak is bad. Banette seems kind of sketch. So you can go ahead on Fair Stamp, you can Iono, you can Zoroark, and then you can do this. But something about these types of effects where you just break your opponent's hand for some reason don't seem to like be good enough strategies on their own. So even though like that combat seems, oh, it's so gross, it's so dangerous, we've had a few instances of this already where people can like use Zoroark and then trim down your hand to like basically zero. I think it's just because we've had good options of drawing out recently. Like Mew EX is just the prime example, but this also doesn't kill anything. It ends your turn, and then you don't do anything afterwards. So you have to have some other game plan post Curse Speech, and that's where like these decks kind of falter, is because they keep trying to limit your opponent's hand. They don't get anywhere, especially because this puts the cards back in your opponent's deck. So it's not even like a deck out option, right? It's just say, I hope they brick, and then maybe I can do my game plan after that. So I don't think this card is that good, despite the thought of like, oh, they can Zoroark Iono unfair state me and put me down at 0. Like, they're not going to do anything after that. Metagross is extremely bad. I'm sorry. The End, Sigilith, is also extremely bad. Oricorio is bad. Mimikyu EX. Choose 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, put 3 damage counters on them. Probably bad. And there's a tiny world where that effect is good, but probably not. Dumwise is bad. Grimmsnarl is probably bad. Like, the first attack only costing 1 energy is nice, because it is a stage 2 and you don't want to have to, like, invest a shit ton of effort to keep it working. But we kind of only have, I guess we have the Gravity Stone, and then we have the Calamitous Wasteland, which boost up the retreat cost of Pokemon. But I don't know, you're just like not building around that. Those strategies haven't really manifested as of late. We've had like, I believe we had like an Orionos and a Spinops that tried to do the same thing. It's just not that great. And even then, like, sometimes your damage is just capped at like 100, and that's pathetic for stage 2. Alcremie, the healing seems cute, but it's probably really bad. It's so minuscule that you probably aren't going to get much value off of it. Alright, T-Tar is the dark type. Mimoswine, this guy is interesting. I think he's like the first non-trainer Pokemon that we saw revealed. He gets a Search Attack for a Pokemon, which is excellent consistency. And then he does decent damage that also scales. I'm trying to figure out like where your scaling has to matter. So by the time you have 3 of these, you do 300 damage, which is okay. Each stage 2 on your bench. And you optimally want 4 stage 2s on your bench to essentially one-shot everything in the game. But 4 stage 2s is very demanding if you're using Grand Tree. We technically have some cards in the game that cheat themselves out. We are losing the Gengar, but we still have the Klinklang, for example. Not the one in this set, but there's a previous Klinklang that says if your opponent has a stage 2 Pokemon in play, you could just immediately put this down. And I guess that's good, because in the matchups where that damage is actually relevant, and the only matchups where that damage is essentially relevant are gonna be the matchups where like you might have to put that thing down for the extra damage, and you can just search it off the Mamoswine ability. This guy is probably okay. I think the only thing that holds him back is that like he kind of doesn't like do everything for free. I guess it's like weird because when you rare candy into a Pokemon currently, I guess Dragon Bolt's attack is just that good. Charizard draws 3 cards out of the deck and immediately attaches them as energy. People are even playing Ninja, who does like cheap setup and cheap attacks. I feel like the stage 2 EXs are like the hardest cards to evaluate, just because like people try to find as many reasons not to play them as possible. I don't know. He also seems like a bit hard to find. He's not a Terra Pokemon. He's not like a specific type Pokemon that has like good support for it. So this guy could be maybe hard to find. If we saw like a Heavy Ball in the future, like if we get Heavy Ball reprinted, and like OG Heavy Ball, not Hisuian Heavy Ball, then like this becomes like way easier to set up. Maybe you could just do Grand Tree, but I'm not sure. I think the only thing that saves like Dragon Bolt is Dracloak is kind of okay as a bridge to all the other stuff. For the same reason, like Gardevoir gets away with it because Train is so strong, and Charizard can just immediately go and draw all the stuff from its deck, so you never actually have to attach energies in the deck. Whereas the Mamoswine still has to find ways to get the energies attached, and it still has to find ways to keep setting up, and it's high maintenance. At least with like a Charizard, once you get it set up, it just does the same for the rest of the game. Outside of like maybe needing to have damage modifiers applied to it, but with the Mamoswine, you have to keep upgate like upping it up every turn. It's not just I rare candy the Charizard, I grab my boss's orders and my Defiance band, and I kill you. With the Mamoswine, it's like, okay, I gotta keep finding ways to attach energies, I gotta keep getting stage 2s in play. And so it becomes a lot of work to maintain. I think that's what's gonna hold Mamoswine back, even though it has really good potential to, like, steamroll the game, I suppose. It is. That is a lot I have to say about Mamo. Regirock is bad. Lycanroc allows you to attach 2 Spike Energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. Okay, that's also bad. I thought I said to any guy for a second. Hop. Hop has a shit ton of damage. Hop, in general, has plus 90 a plus 90 damage modifier and everything. So even this... Oh, and it also reduces the attack by 1 colorless energy. So, like, that Silly Cobra, he looks silly, right? But that motherfucker is doing 110 damage for 1 fighting energy. Regardless, we are kind of looking at the worst cards for Hop immediately. I just don't think any of these guys do a lot. He has quarter on the Sandaconda, and the other attack does 230, which is like whatever for 2 energy. Yeah, whatever, who cares? This guy, active Pokemon is 200 cost less. We have a lot of Yos in the game, and you don't really want to set up another stage 1 for this. Like, maybe in a world where you have Toadschool as a tech anyways, and you're playing a Hyper Aroma deck, and you need to retreat, I guess you can do that, but still, like, I doubt this card will ever see play. The Cloth is bad, the Koraidon is bad, Weezing is bad, the Clodsire is bad. Oh, the Tyranitar. Oh, this is the card I was thinking of. So we have Excelgor, who we talked about earlier, but in case you forgot, he has a hit run attack. And so I guess the relevant target is you can go into Tyranitar off the Excelgor attack and unlock him afterwards, which actually has me a little bit interested. I think the only issue is that, like I said, having multiple evolving Pokemon in your deck is really hard to justify. Pidgeot only gets away with it because Pidgeot essentially, grabs you the rare candy or the missing Pokemon, allows you to evolve the other guy anyways, and then progressively throughout the game grabs you every single card you need. But having this up like a Tyranitar and a Selgor, they don't draw you any cards or gain you any value, is inherently tough, because then your value has to come from something else. And so while I think this effect can be really strong, I think limiting it to a stage 2, when we have way easier ways of accessing this, is really tough. I mean, it sucks that Tyranitar has to compete with Badoo, who does it for free, and even to an extent like Banette EX and Venomoth, who also do it for relatively cheap, and also have really good support surrounding them, while also being on a stage 1. This guy just has nothing going for him. Even then, your opponent can also just boss around this, and get their items back, where the other effects that we've talked about persist until the end of the opponent's turn. The Purloin is bad, probably. Does N ever need to play Disruptive? If N turns into a controlling deck somehow, where you use Pill for every turn, I don't know what to say. Anyways, there's Zoroark. I really don't need to call on this guy too much. He has a lot of good support in terms of like the items and the supporter and the text on him, but his supporting crew just kind of let him down. Pangoro seems bad. I don't think this card is going to be in the set. I'm pretty sure this card gets left out of the set, and it gets added to a box later. And we also don't know any of the other Marnie's Pokemon, so I'm just going to refuse to comment on that guy. Bombardier bad, Locake's bad, Escavalier bad, Klinkblade. This is another thing that N can copy, or Zoroark can copy, and it's not good. Doing 80 for 3 coin flips. Sorry, it's 120 on each coin flip is kind of bad. You're not even expected to hit a 250 average. You're only expecting to hit 250 damage every other turn, as you expect. Like, I don't know how the average is supposed to be specifically said. But in my head, it's like, okay, you're gonna do 120 damage, or you're gonna do 240 damage, and the next turn you're likely to do the opposite. So it'll do like 120. Of course, there's variance in, like between all that. But man, that just sounds awful. You have to set up a stage 2 just to get that, and then like your attack isn't even consistent. It's so gross. Stuff Fest is bad. Bagheera has interesting applications. I saw some people talking about like Pikachu loops. So you have 2 of these. Oh, sorry, it has to be in the active. Ooh, that makes it worse. I've still seen people be like, oh, you could like mass attach energies and heal something up that way with Bagheera, but that sounds like a lot of effort. When healing strategies just haven't been good for a while. The last one that was kind of good was like Cheryl on like Urshifu VMAX and Inteleon, but that was only because we weren't in a meta that could one-shot those guys. And with decks like Goldango and Raging Bolt and even like Iono around, it's kind of hard to dodge like when it KOs Curly. So I just don't think like the healing effect is very good, despite being the guy who loves healing effects. Corviknight, once again, I think it's a plus 90 damage buff because of all the hop bullshit. This guy does 50 to the active, or 140 to the active, and 50 to the bench, which is okay, especially because he'd be doing that for free, and then stealing to 60 less. But it's just like, it's too much work to set up for stage 2. For not enough payoff, like 140 to the active, 50 to the bench, just isn't meaningful numbers because neither of those numbers are like killing anything relevant. You're not killing a 2 prizer, and then you can't even kill like a 1 prizer with that. You can kill a Badu, but like anything can, so that's not really impressive. Copper Raja bad. God, it's so fucking troll that there's gonna be 2 Zacians in the set. The first one is bad, I think. Yeah, that one's bad. The second one though, is maybe like the most contentious card of the set because it does 240 damage for 4 energy, but you have to remember there's the tool card that does plus 3 damage and it also reduces the cost of it. So realistically, it's 3 metal energy for possibly 330 damage, which is a lot. It is not negligible damage. The first attack can allow you to kill a Badu and then pump damage onto something. It could be like 120 damage. And that could tie together with some of the other attackers in the deck, so not entirely reliant on the Zacian. But the big issue is, like, where the fuck are you getting the other energy onto this from? We don't have Metal Saucers. I can't think of any good way of getting the energy onto this that isn't, like, set up a Metane. Because if you're setting up a Metane, like, that's kind of bullshit. You're just, like, not going to be able to consistently enough get the energies on it without sacrificing a lot of the deck's consistency, and then your deck is already inconsistent because you're playing Metane. It's like, it's a mess, right? The text is really strong, and I want it to be good. This is kind of one of those things where, like, if Zacian can consistently attack somehow with some of the tools in the game, then I believe it's probably one of the best decks in the game, like a tier 1 archetype. Not the BDAF, because I'm not sure if there's anything that is BDAF in Journey Together. Even post-rotation, like, I can't think of a single deck that's going to stand out above everything else. Or, Zacian can't attack, that's kind of relegated to meme status, because, like, you can't consistently set it up. But it is definitely scary. We have a Salamence EX, 50 to everything, and then does... sorry, only to the bench, my bad. And it can do 300 damage for 4 energy. This guy is a bitch to set up. 3 energy to 50 is a lot. Nah, this is just too inconvenient to set up. I can't think of a good way of getting this out there. It's not Terra Pokemon, so you can't Terra Crystal, but you can upper Neo energy, I guess. So upper Neo, Crispin, bullshit, I don't know. You really can't do a whole lot in getting the energies on this. And even then, I don't think the payoff is that great. The second attack isn't killing something, and it has a downside. Like, isn't killing the big targets that the commitment to the attack and the downside of the attack are worth. And then the spread is too slow. Yeah, the card's bad. Druddigan is probably bad. Rushram is the most tame attack that you could copy off the Zoroark. You do 170 damage, and occasionally you do even more damage if they hit you, like an idiot, and don't kill you. So, like, it's okay, but there's nothing else to comment on. Hop Snorlax, this is a guy I was talking about. He buffs all your hops Pokemon by plus 30 damage. But there's also a Stadium and a Tool card that do that. So ultimately, he hits for plus 90 damage. This guy also hits for a ridiculous amount of damage because if you have 2 energies on him and all the requirements, then he will do 230 damage, which is very respectable. Like kills Moon, kills does it kill Bolt? I don't remember if it kills Bolt. I don't think it does, but very respectable damage. This guy also hits for a lot. It's nice that your fucking Bedsitter Pokemon can also like do shit too. The Furret is especially bad. Dunsparce is pretty bad. Dunsparce, I think, is not awful. I think the Dun engine is kind of slept on right now. I stopped playing it because Dragon Bolt came out, and Dragon Bolt's one, very popular at my locals, but 2, it was killing the version of the deck that I wanted to play, which was Moo Dun, and having the free retreat Duns is really critical to that deck. So having to go up to the 70 HP ones that don't have free retreat was not worth it for me to keep playing that deck. But I think the engine is still good, and I think I was just being a little bitch too. I think you just play the deck with Dun and Moons, and use the 70 HP ones and just be fine. And so I think having 1 copy of this card is maybe okay. Only because he's a cheap attacker that only requires 1 energy. So sometimes you just have a Dunsparce setup, and you got nothing else going on. I was like, okay, cool, I'll do this attack and maybe kill like a Raging Bolt or something else big like a Terrapagos. Kecleo's bad, Trumpy's bad, Aldino's bad, Cicino's bad, Noivern is bad, Kamala is bad, Drenpa is bad, Greta is bad. These are just the evolutions lines for Corviknight. Hop Stubble. When you evolve this, you get to do boss's orders. I don't think this text is that great in this day and age. It was kind of better in Sun and Moon, but after watching like Sun and Moon footage, like you had way more time to set things up, and you like did shit damage throughout the game. So sometimes your opponent will retreat. It's like, oh, what do you do? And then you fucking like a rock and you pull that shit back up and you kill it. But I think the game is too fast, and it requires you to have too consistent of a setup for this to really be worth it. It's also not limited to like hops, like the hop archetype. You can play this in anywhere. I just don't know anywhere where it's like super phenomenal. Like I don't know why you would want like Gust on an Ultra Ball, for example. Unless we got a better way of searching this out, which I can't think of a single way that you could, then I don't think it's that great. I just don't see any archetype that like demands a 1/1 or a 2/2 line of this for extra gusting. Well, we already have Prime Catcher, Counter Catcher, Boss, all these other ways of pulling the opponent into the act of killing them. Crimmer, Hop Scrammer. Oh, yeah, Crimmer is bad, but Hop Scrammer, dude, this guy's awesome. He swings for 210, and then, like I said, Tool card makes an attack for free. Snorlax, Stadium, he'll just do 2 ton damage for free. This guy's cracked. This guy's so stupid. Even though he works during like one part of the game, he's still so good. You can also manipulate it, so if you only have like 1-2 Prizer on the field and they knock that out, then by the time that guy is knocked out, you just leave 1 Prizer on the field, and you get double the cram value because you get the attack for cram on your 3rd and 4th prize. This guy is awesome. Like, I've seen so many people downplay this card, but this guy's like fucking broken. This guy's like the whole reason the Hop archetype is like even remotely playable, I think. Oinkologne is bad, Squawk is bad. We've already seen these black belts. We already have them, but they're okay. Brock Scouty, this is like a Sodium replacement for like Sword and Shield. Grabs 2 basic Pokemon or an evolution, and it's flexible. It's kind of nice. I've been seeing some JP videos play like a copy of this, and they're hypothetical post-rotation format, so they're like playtesting the new cards and stuff like that, and so they're playing the game as if like rotation's already happened, and probably by the point that this video comes out, rotation now has already happened for them. So it's kind of like a card where it's like, you don't feel great for playing this, but like, it's not bad. Like, if you just have to use your supporter or grab an evolution, which sometimes happens, like sometimes you just like Arvin for Ultra Ball, Defiance Band, Ultra Ball, the Defiance Band away another card, and you just grab your Charizard or some shit like that. Like, that stuff happens. having this as like a one of is maybe okay. Um, I can't comment further on it because like it's a card that feels bad to play, but at the same time, like the effects are so basic. Like you need Pokemon to play the game, so a card that searches out Pokemon and any Pokemon to a degree is just kind of solid. Exchange ticket is bad. Stop letting people gaslight you. I was looking at results for Rotom decks, and sure, Rotom decks could hypothetically put the cards that you just had in your prize area back into your prize area because of how it's worded. But like, who gives a shit? You're just playing new cards in the prize zone. You're gonna like be like, oh, I really needed this like boss and to win the game, and then you're gonna fucking exchange ticket. Your boss is gonna be at the bottom of the deck and you can't find it, and then all of a sudden you're gonna prize a new card that you need to win the game. So it's like, why? Why are you playing this? You really want to go -1 to see nothing? And the worst part is that, like, if you're playing out of regionals, you know someone who plays this shit, they're prize checking their fucking deck again. They have to make sure that everything is there. And that sounds like a total pain in the ass, bro. I am not looking forward to that. So, I don't know, just don't play this card. You don't need it. Hop Snag, it's a VIP pass for Hop, which is also extremely good. Holy shit, they gave this guy so many good things. The only thing he doesn't have is Energy Ramp, which is a good thing because, like, that'd be absurd. That'd be absurdly good. But he has everything else. It's so good. He's probably good. And then the choice band, too, like I was just talking about, costs 1 energy less, is 30 more damage. Like, why? Why does he have this? Iris, discard a card from your hand, draw until we have 6. Like maybe a fringe playable. It has to be like a deck that either has to like run at a specific hand size. I'm trying to think of like a good example. Like sometimes with like the barrel decks, you would play like low to the ground supporters, like draw to X type of supporters instead, just because like it allowed you to feed into the barrel draw a little bit more and turbo out in specific ways. But I don't see why you would run this currently. I don't think it's that great. I think we have way better draw effects. So even if this is like discard a card from your hand, draw 6. We kind of have just better ways of utilizing that. We have like the Iono's Kilowattral. We have River Room technically, even if I think that card is bad. I don't know, it just doesn't seem that great. And it's also dead when you're winning, but breaking at the same time. Levincia seems really good, so I mean, there's the obvious synergy with all the Iono stuff, but I think Goldingo loves the stadium. Goldingo gets a free energy retrieval every turn. That's so broken. Yeah, I think I think Levincia makes Goldingo like a very consistent tier 1 deck, where already it's kind of good because it has all these good things going for it, and it isn't going to be losing much. Like, it'll lose Ready Grinja, but everything does, so like, who cares? But like Levincia, bro, Levincia is so good for that deck because it's just gonna consistently give it 100 damage every turn. Yeah, it's gross. This card's even more gross. Something that Jake Gerhardt brought up recently, like today, is that like there's no good tool removal in the format. We don't have a Lost Vacuum or a Field Blower or anything, so you either have to commit to play like a supporter that can, or use the dumb garbage A-Spec that blows away all the opponent's tools. So when it comes to like the Clefairy stuff, like they have to respect it. This is the one thing I forgot to bring up when I was talking about like Clefairy earlier, is that it has this. It just has 4 copies of Life Dew in the deck. And so you can just attach this to all your Clefairies, also they're 1-prizers. And currently, there's not a good way for your opponent to deal with it, unless they're playing the Megaton Blower. This is probably why they didn't give Lillie too many Pokemon, because they decided to give it a fucking A-Spec of all things as a 4 of. But like, if the Clefairy deck is good, is because it has consistent tempo, and then also just gets a jam a shit ton of these. The Ed's Castle is pretty good because of Ed's PP up. You have to attach an energy from your discard to one of your Ed's Pokemon on the bench, and so you want the stadium that helps you retreat for free. I can't think of anything else as like super relevant with the Ed's Castle besides the fact that like some of the guys that you play in that deck are heavier, like the Reshiram, like the Darm, like the Klinklang. So having free retreat on those guys and not getting boss trapped is kind of neat. It's not like a card you're going to play like 4 copies of, but you can definitely play it like 1 or 2, maybe even 3. Yeah, it just seems good. Ed's PP up is also good too. It just sucks that like the Zoroark archetype, or like all the cards that support Zoroark, just like kind of aren't good enough. So like even though Ed's PP up is just a great card, there's just not anything you can really do with it. Postwick is the stadium for Hop. I think this card is broken, like I've said before. We got a couple more researches that were missing for the set. Ruffian discarded a tool and a special energy for one of your opponent's Pokemon. I can actually see this card seeing tech usage just because, like I said, we don't have a way of getting rid of any like tools or stuff off an item. So, like I said, no fuel blur, no lost vacuum, and so having this to deal with like maybe garbage survival braces or other ways of like trying to cheese things can be really good. I could definitely see this card just being thrown in as a tech. It's not like the favorite tech we have for now, but it's possible. I don't know why we're getting Super Potion. And then we have Spike Energy. This is just like Horror Energy, but for everything. And Horror Energy was only kind of good because Dragonbolt VMAX already spread damage in a very specific way. I don't know why you would need this energy in the game, or who even utilizes it pretty well. So I'm just gonna say like this card's kind of bad for now until we get like some broken special energy RAM system again or whatever. Anyways, that's like the entire set for the most part. It's kind of underwhelming for the most part. We don't have a whole lot of good things coming. I think the best card of the set is probably the Levincia because it makes Goldingo a really good deck. And all the traders Pokemon kind of are like a little finicky. So like Lillie doesn't have any good cards outside of 4 copies of Life Dew and Suicune 3.0. The Hops though seems very good, but you know, Attack of Resistance seems like a bitch. Iono is like maybe the most fulfilled of all the packages, but it's also like a little too humble. And then the Zoroark has almost everything it needs to be good. It's just missing like a fucking Technoblast attacker. So, you know, I don't have too much else to add on to the set. I think it'll like make minor impacts. I think the cards in the set are like okay, but we're not gonna see anything that's gonna absolutely break the game. If you guys enjoyed me rambling for like 46 minutes or whatever, leave a like, comment down below, subscribe. I'll be putting out more Pokemon TCG content or whatever soon.